First of all, many thanks to Shanti for this workshop and the opportunity to present the mind map realized by Chantal and I during and with a cost action 2 years ago. During this cost action, historians and psychologists became more and more aware that the commemorative phenomenon is now a global and multi-faced phenomenon. So we need a global view to analyze all the different aspects of the commemorations and their meaning for and about the societies who are commemorating different events or people. We would like to have a great discussion to correct our mind map, and we hope that some of you will participate to our project to test this mind map. Last year we started a project on just one point of this big mind map, the decision to commemorate the centenary of the Great War. Yet we have a paper about French-speaking Belgium, Croatia, Portugal, Russia, and Australia. But we will have soon papers about Dutch-speaking Belgium, Germany, but we need, of course, something about France, United Kingdom, Turkey, Austria, Hungary, and so on. When we will have enough papers, we will organize a workshop to discuss and provide a transnational paper. We divide the commemorative phenomenon in 3 parts. First, focus on decision and preparation. Second, focus on the commemoration themselves, ceremonies, exhibitions, newspapers, website, and so on. And third, focus on the result and impact of the commemoration. So let's begin with the first focus. The second and the third focus will be presented by Chantal. The origin of the decision to commemorate something may come from experts' demands, like in French-speaking Belgium and Germany for the centenary, from media pressure, like in Croatia, and a little bit also in French-speaking Belgium, from political pressure, like in Flanders, from external challenges, like in Portugal, from minority groups. So the first thing is the origin of the decision. Who say we have to do something? When the political decision is made, we will have an organizing committee. But who is in this committee? Politicians, civil society, experts, and who is the president of the committee? Of course, it is very different if the president is a politician, like in Flanders, or an historian, like in Wallonia. The question is, how is this committee working? Can we see conflicts inside the committee? Which one? Who imposes his vision against who? So it's not easy to have the documents to go inside this. But if we have, it's very, very interesting. And what's the power of this committee? Because we know all, at least the politician will give the money or not. So we have different kind of organizing committees. They are just pour les conseils, advisory, and other are really organizing a committee. Anyway, the committee will provide an action plan. We have to analyze the explicit values proposed by the plan. Peace and tolerance in Flanders, for example. Human rights and freedom for Wallonia. It's different values, explicit values. May say the flags. We have also to analyze the purposes of the plan. Explicit purposes, like heritage valorization, memory tourism, memory transmission to wide public or to the youth, international prestige, and sometimes it's really explicit, sometimes it's implicit, because you have also the implicit purpose, like some political purpose, personal ambitions from certain people. To close this analysis, we have, of course, to look at the projects inside the action plan. And you have two big ways to manage it. It's the project in a top-down way, official websites, TV documentaries who are made by the political ask. Also official exhibitions, official textbooks, fundamental research. We have some projects. And you have the other projects in a bottom-up way, via call for project addressed to who? Local authorities, local association, schools. We can see all of that. In looking all these items, we will be able to analyze the preparation of the commemoration, the possible conflict, the global purposes, and ways imagined to realize them. But this is only the preparation. It's very interesting to have what they had in mind, and then second step, what was realized or not. Because we can have also other initiatives in not the official way, counter memories, anti-memories, and so on. So, Chantal, I give you the floor.
So the second step of this map we made, and I must also add, we made this also during a common discussion with some social psychologists which were involved in this cost action. And I think some of the aspects are more aspects that are dealt for social psychologists than for historians. But we definitely believe that if we want to have a global vision, we have to involve, and this is also the aim of this workshop, different disciplines. Because as historians, and I feel embarrassed because by some of the proposals you made, because we are not familiar with some of the methods you mentioned, and maybe some of our methods are different, more classical, and this is something interesting. But we think that it's becoming such a huge phenomenon that we can not only stay inside our lonely discipline. So after the preparation, of course, we have what we have called the act of commemorating. We have classical kinds of commemoration with publishing of books, media events, but I think mentioning memorial activities, I think it's also interesting to look how the Senatory tried to give new meanings at all memorials. Of course, we have all memorials that has no longer sense for the current generation, and I think, for example, at a memorial we visit together with the MEMEX. There's a memorial devoted to King Albert in Nieuwpoort. And for the current generation, it's classical Belgium that belongs to the past. But how can we use that memorial? Now, there is under the memorial, and it's also interesting to see how commemorative events use the space. Under the memorial, they create a new museum. New museums that is devoted to an event that took place at the place that the slots that were open in November 1914, and that's giving a new meaning to an old place. And I think this is something we have more examples of that, of centers of memory, small museums. So how old classical memorials have new meanings for new generation, and how does the Senatory try to involve new generations groups in their dynamic. Other aspect, of course, budget is very, very important. it has already been mentioned. There is a very important budget if we compare to other commemorative events, and I remember the 50th anniversary of World War II, where there was already a lot of budget, but if we compare, there is nothing comparable between the amounts that were devoted. So it's very interesting to have also an international perspective, because we have the impression in Belgium a lot of money has been spent to that commemorative event, in France too, in Britain too. But if we go further to less classical models, that means, for example, a country such as Poland, which didn't exist at the time of the First World War, where people were involved in different armies, how to deal with a commemorative event in that kind of country? Is there a political demand? Is there a budget? Which is the audience? Does the media play an important role? I think we have also to try to find connections with people of those countries which have a clearly different experience of World War I. We also want to play an important dimension to the ritual, because I think this is very close to what Chantal explained to us. All the different forms of solemnity are perceived by the groups. And what does that mean? How is the decision made? Who is speaking? In which word? Is it cognitive dimension that is produced, or is it more an emotional sense of meaning that is transmitted? And what does that mean when we go to the reception? In clear, is there a link between what is produced in terms of rituals? Where does it take place? In traditional places, in new places? What is the place of music, for example? And does that tell us something about the way people will receive, will perceive, because I think there is also a difference between the two, that moment. So rituals, of course, that is a part of the event by itself. Then how is it possible? Is it possible to measure what we have called results of commemoration? Do we have, as historians, of course, the idea that commemoration should improve historical knowledge is something that is seducing for us, but we have to admit that it's not mostly the case. But at the same perspective, the states invest a lot in exhibition. And what is the meaning of this investment? Is it slowly a touristical or a commercial purpose? Or is it also the idea that exhibition have the ambition to improve the historical knowledge of the people who visit it? And how can we measure it? And are there other impacts that we can learn from the visit of historical exhibition? In the MEMEX project, for example, there was a social psychologist who made his PhD about commemoration, and he tried to measure how pacifist attitude change before and after visiting an exhibition. So I think this is really interesting. He has done it for Belgian exhibition, but we could reproduce it in other contexts to see if what he has observed is valuable in other local, regional, national contexts. How can we also try to measure the impact of the exhibition? I was very interested, and I have only have a quick look at it, but for example, if you use something such as TripAdvisor, when you look, for example, at in Flanders Field Museum, you have more than 2,000 reactions. Most of them are in English, but also in French, in Dutch, and very small in German. But it's also interesting to see how people communicate about their experience about visiting an exhibition. And you have also, you can do it with other places. And I think maybe this is something we can use on an international level. Just a few words about our future project, because this is a project, but it takes place in the context of MEMEX. We already talk about it. And we have also another project, and we hope very much that we can have the money for it. It's called Commemoration in Belgium. And the idea there was to focus on 4 different commemorative moments that are coming. It's one the most obvious one, November 2018. The second one is seeing the visiting of an exhibition as a commemorative moment, the reopening of the Africa Museum, because colonial past is becoming more and more object of debate in the Belgian context. In 2020, and this connects us with topics of this institution, it's the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II, and we can imagine there will be a lot of events, and it could be interesting also to compare the commemoration of World War I and commemoration of World War II. And in 2021, a completely new kind of commemorative. It will be the 5th anniversary of the terrorist attack in Brussels in March 2016. So the idea is to have a global perspective on different kind of commemorative event when you still have people that were directly involved to the event, but also events where there are no witnesses anymore. And I think this is obviously the case for World War I, but it's slowly also the case for World War II. So it will be also interesting to have this very different perspective.